Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to continue our journey through our box of knives that we got from our buddy John Emerson. Thanks, John, for all the knives. I think John just sits home way too much time. Y'all know he's recovering some major surgery, so he's like on the internet all day long trying to find the weirdest, most outrageous knives at the best price he possibly can. So we're going to take a look at this one. I'm calling this the SKD-11 Gravity Knife because it doesn't really have a name. The name on here, I can't even read that. Will that focus in? Something 10 moons, looks like 10 moons or low moons pocket knife. Obviously this is made in China. Where did John get this? John, I think I found this on Alibaba for $13. I'm not sure. I don't think John had the actual link or couldn't find where he'd actually picked this up. But you can see these on there. This is one of those knives that if you're searching for it, you're not going to find it. Because they're not allowed to advertise or promote gravity knives on there. So you couldn't go to Alibaba or AliExpress or Temu and search gravity knife. You'll get zero results. It's not allowed. And so you also have to be careful if this is one of the knives you're thinking about getting. There are some states that do not allow, for some reason, these gravity knives. I don't know why. This is certainly no more dangerous of a mechanism than like a full auto knife that pops in or out, although those are banned in some states too, so maybe that's the situation here. What I have discovered is that SKD-11 is actually a type of steel. So it's a I'm going to read this, a semi-stainless high-speed tool steel capable of being treated as 64 HRC by Japanese knife makers. It's very similar to D2 steel, but somehow the composition allows it to be even harder and therefore more, edge retention than D2 steel. So before we get too deep in here, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe notification bell. If you want, go ahead and throw me a thumbs up. That helps the channel out. I always appreciate that. I'm curious to know if anybody else has got this knife, and let me know down in the comments. It does say right here on the blade SKD-11, so I thought that was like the model number of this knife. I'd never even heard of SKD-11 steel. Although it's certainly, there's a lot of steels out there I haven't heard of. I'm not the end-all be-all steel expert, but I thought that was the model until I started doing the research. The box it came in, I just showed you, it is a plain white Chinese box with a barcode, and I'm going to say that's low moons pocket knife. So yeehaw for that. Let's do some size comparison. This is a big knife, y'all. This is a big, heavy knife. There's the PM2 and the Para 3, in this case the 𝗚𝗂𝗃𝗃. You can see it is considerably longer than both of those knives, and lots more, well, I'm going to say, yeah, definitely more blade length if you factor in the Tanto. In case you have the Civivi Vision FG that you compare to, or maybe the old Vostede Raccoon, it is considerably bigger than both of those knives as well. We will do our dollar bill size comparison just because we do, and I'll line the back end up. You can see this thing is about 1 3/4 dollar bills, a little over 1 1/2, maybe 1 2/3 dollar bills. Yeehaw for that. Let's see if I got some specs. I haven't even done the specs. Yeah, we'll bring those up down the side of the screen here. So in the full open length, this thing is 9.1 inches long. The blade is 3 3/4 inches long. In the closed position, it's 5.38. Blade thickness, interestingly, is 115 thousandths, which it kind of looked and felt thicker than that. I had to do a double take on that. That is not terribly thick given what it is here. The handle thickness is a little over 1/2 inch, which it feels in the hand much thicker than that. So weird things, but I did measure twice, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. This is a satin, I'm going to say this is coated. So the original listings say that it's some kind of titanium coated Tanto blade. It is definitely coated with something, and it is not a paint. It is some kind of impregnated PVD style finish on it. It does have an interesting finish in that the, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here. The finish is like a horizontal, almost a hand rubbed going across the top, and then it's a hollow ground, obviously the grind lines going downhill towards the tip of the blade there. So interesting finish on the blade. As I mentioned, hollow grind. These are full-blown steel handles. This is a very heavy knife at 10.16 ounces. This is a pocket dragger. Gravity knife, as I mentioned. I found this for $13.18. I'm not sure what John said he bought his original for, and despite the hollow grind, obviously it's not a very tall blade to begin with. Even with the hollow grind, you're about 25 thousandths behind the edge there. So let's take a closer look at this thing and see what we get here. So there's no real hardware on this knife. There's a T8 on the back pivots and T6. Oh, sorry, I'm not even on camera. T6 on the pocket clip. It is non-reversible, so there's that. It has a monstrous size spoon style pocket clip. It's very soft on the springiness, so this could potentially, given the fact that it's such a heavy knife, that could potentially come out of your pocket. Not the world's best, just a little cheap steel bent clip type thing. Again, one side only. Then there's a couple of T6s here that hold this little mechanism in. That's the slider up and down that locks it into place on the blade there. There's a little ball bearing in here, if you can see that. That helps to keep the blade just a little extra friction so it doesn't easily slip up, although I can tell you there's no real firmness to that. It's not doing a fantastic job of really holding anything tight in there. And that's where we get to one of the well, let's stay with the ergonomics in the frame. It does have some heavy jimping up on the top here, on the back, and on the bottom here. That's good. That actually gives you some real world grip down here, which is good because you don't want your fingers sliding up on that blade. This is not a pokey stabby type of knife. Obviously it's a tanto hollow grind up here. Not the world's most comfortable or ergonomic. It's not sharp on the corners, but it's not even really chamfered either. So definitely not going to be a comfortable or ergonomically friendly, although it's got a nice big heavy place here to put your thumb, nice and thick. So you could certainly bear into some cuts going at it that way. I'm a size large glove. You can see this is a massive knife for anybody of any size of hands. One of the issues with this knife, and I don't know if it's this one or all of them because I don't have any other gravity knives, there's a lot of blade play here. So let me see if I can hold this hand steady, and you can see there's a lot of up down and there's some left to right blade play on this thing. You have to take my word. Now, here's the thing. If you really push this little trap door hard closed, that reduces a lot of that. So when I'm rocking this blade up and down, I'm feeling this door move up and down on the back end here too. So I can tell the ability to rock that blade is conditioned upon how tightly you're holding, but you have to really bear down to reduce any noticeable amount on that blade play. But it also reduces the left to right play. So it's all a function of how tightly this scale is holding on to that pin right there, I'm going to call it, in terms of the blade play. All right, there's it's just a plain slide up, slide down. Sometimes it's a little sticky. If you go straight up and down, it's always gonna launch out for you just fine, right? So is it smooth and easy? Yeah, pretty much. It's smooth and easy. I'm not a big fan of this blade style shape. I know everybody likes a good tanto blade, and there's certainly good use cases for it. If you're doing cutting like this a lot, this is great. You got a nice long edge. If you're breaking down cardboard, you're not going to slide out of the cuts. You've got a nice, thick, beefy tip. You can definitely do some hard work prying with that, but hopefully you can see, let me zoom in on this because you can see how uneven this grind is. If I, let me see if I can get this in focus. You can see down the left side, that tip is cut way back farther over here than it is on the right side. But that's what you get with these kind of knives. You can see that the total height of the grind here is taller than the total height of the grind right here. So very uneven on the grind. That's what kind of I would expect with one of these. This is more I'm going to say a novelty. I just don't see a real world use for it. The other thing I mentioned is that although there's a little bit of, this is more design, there's no grippiness to these little cutouts right here, which should ideally be designed to give you some good traction, but your finger just slides right across those. So this doesn't provide any meaningful traction. That might as well be, I get as much traction down here with no cutouts as I do in this area right here. So that's worth pointing out as well in case you were thinking about getting one of these. I did find one of these knives on bladeaddict.com for $49.95. You might want to avoid that for $49.95 and go for the AliExpress or Temu if you find one at under 10 bucks. That listing, however, says this is a 440 steel. Now, we've had some really good results with 440 steel, so we'll see. But again, what I was getting to with this is that when you're trying to cut, first of all, you can use the secondary tip. So if you're doing draw cuts, you could use this, the Tonto tip down here to do your draw cuts. Otherwise, you're way up here, and that's really uncomfortable for like draw cuts, which is most of your EDC, opening packages, etc. The other thing I've discovered is that like cutting rope, it's impossible to cut rope or even the hose or the tube on a table because this straight edge just doesn't work. There's no belly to it to rock through that cut. So I have to raise things up on a board of some sort to cut directly down into. That makes it very undesirable for me personally because of all the EDC style cutting I use. I'm either doing draw cuts or I need that belly to rock into some kind of cut like that. But again, there is value to the straight edge as well. If you're doing cardboard, you're not going to slide out of the cuts as easy. You've got a nice, long, flat edge here. You can slice through some stuff with a hollow grind. Should be pretty good. The factory edge on this thing is not spectacular, as you might expect. Is it terrible? No. But you can see it's going to hang up. It's not good. It's not great. I'm going to give this maybe an 8. At best. There's no snags that I can tell. It feels, you know, fairly sharp. I mean, you wouldn't want to just grind it across your hand, but it just doesn't cut very smoothly. So again, that's just a cheap factory edge on it. That's what you get with these sometimes. No sharpening choil, obviously. No finger choil up here. But you don't really need one. You've got this jimping here to hold into right there. But if you want to try to reprofile this, you're going to either have to cut in a choil, like a little manual choil, which I'll do sometimes with just a little straight edge cutting bit, or you're going to end up with a smile, and it's just not, it's going to be real hard to reprofile this edge. You could touch it up easily enough on a strop or even a little ceramic stone, but in terms of reprofiling this thing, this would not be very easy to do. The other thing I didn't mention is that you may have picked this up. This is sandwiched layers of steel. So instead of having like a solid steel box that it slides into, this is all layers of sandwiched steel. They're all like the same thickness, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including the trap door, layers of sandwiched steel on it. So I thought that was just an interesting choice, but again, makes this thing very heavy. At 10 ounces, this is not something you're going to really want to carry in your pocket all day long. All right, let's just bring this thing on home. Ergonomically, it is not a dream. It does have some jimping on the back and the front that at least gives you some grip. I'm not a big fan of this particular blade shape and style, the straight-on Tonto, for all the reasons I've mentioned here. It's a little square and boxy in terms of ergonomics, so not going to be hugely comfortable. Monster-sized pocket clip, although it's a very cheap stamped steel that's pretty weak on the tension, so it could definitely fall out of your pocket. It's obviously not reversible because of the design here that they've done on that. So there's a lot of reasons. This is a great little novelty knife. You know, if you just got a collection and you don't own a gravity knife and you don't want to spend the crazy amount of dollars that some of those nice ones cost, you can get one here for, I guess, 13 bucks is what this thing costs, or at least what I found it for. If you look around and probably shop a while, I bet you could find one of these things under 10 bucks. I'm pretty sure you could, because it's just not that expensive to make what you've got here. I'm not going to complain any more than that. I've kind of given you the old full rundown on it. I'm curious, anyone else have one of these SKD-11 knives? I'm interested to hear. Have y'all tried this out in the real world? I'll be honest, I have not even carried this knife or tried it or used it on any kind of daily basis. I already know that I'm not a big fan of not having any kind of belly with a very ultra high tip like that. In my experiences, even the Tonto, which is not well ground even, you can see the grind here, the tip of that secondary tip just isn't all that great for even opening packages and stuff. Now, it'll cut through tape, of course. That'd be ridiculous. You can cut through tape with a butter knife. But again, just not my particular cup of tea, and it's definitely a little on the heavy side for an all-day carry kind of knife. But let me know what y'all think. I'm always interested to hear down in the comments. If you haven't already, throw me a thumbs up, please. That really helps the channel out. Otherwise, hit me up in the comments. I look forward to chatting with you guys. Y'all have a great day. Talk to you later.